Hi! On the Woodpecker today, I'm making a wooden tripod. I really love my aluminium tripod. It's light and I use it each and every day. But it has a big flaw. I can't film very high above the subject. I always have to climb on furniture to have a top shot. But this means I have to have something to climb on nearby. This is the main reason why I want another tripod. My new tripod will be inspired by the big professional tripods we have at work. The legs are made of several tubes, sliding one beside each other. We also have some with a central post similar to my own tripod. So, with those two models in mind, I drew up my own wooden tripod. The first thing I do is to get some oak boards I have lying around to make the legs and their connecting blocks. I begin by surfacing all my oak. When I'm done, I can start the dowels for the legs. On the router, I route a half-circle profile on each side of each board. Then I rip both ends. And go back to the router table. When I'm done, this is what my dowels look like. This is not too bad, but I can clearly see it's not perfectly round. So I do the rest on the lathe. To remove the cutter marks, I just use a belt sander. This is way better like that. The only thing I have to do is to cut one end and check if it's okay. Since it's perfect, I can take care of the blocks which will hold those dowels. I begin by cutting all the blocks to the right length. Then to the right width. Next, I drill a big hole in each corner. This takes a little while, but now all my blocks have two holes. I need to drill more holes in the center block of the middle section and also one for the bottom dowel. To have the holes at the right place, I use the actual bottom block to figure their placement. Then I can move the stop block and drill the holes. All the holes are done, except the center hole of the middle block. All done now. But to hold the dowels in place, when the tripod will be open, I need to cut a slot in the center of the center blocks. To make sure the slot is wide enough and centered, I cut the slot from both sides. Then I drill the holes for the locking bolt. On the top block, I need to remove both corners to make a hinge. I mark all three blocks at once and cut their corners. Now I can cut the dowels to the right length and screw them in place in the blocks. When I screw the lower block of the top section, I make sure everything is well clamped to the workbench. This helps a lot. Now I have all three top sections. I can take care of the center one. But only now I realize that I have some dowels a bit too big. I fix this with a spoke shave. When it's okay, I can screw the middle section. And finally, put the lower dowel in place. But the holes don't align perfectly on the second leg. I fix this with a long drill bit. Finally, all three legs are done. I can start to work on the top of the tripod. I begin by sticking my pattern on some cutoffs from my doors. I'm really careful to stick this straight. The pattern's lines will be my reference. I begin by setting the miter to 30 degrees. I make the first cut straight on the line. Then I move the miter to the other 30 degrees and make the second cut. Then I move the miter to 0 and make the last two cuts. Those are the three pieces I cut. Now I need to remove this. First, I move the sublight to the right height. Then I cut both sides. Before cutting the next ones, I check if it will fit over the top of the legs. Since it's perfect, I cut the last two pieces. Then I remove inside both cuts. When I'm done, the bottom is a bit rough. I fix this with a rasp. This is how this will fit later. But before, I need to find the center and drill a hole. I also find the center of the top block and drill it. Before I can try my hinges, I need to cut a metal rod. To help insert the rod, I chamfer its tip. Now I can try this. Since I'm confident this will work, I can glue the three pieces together. I make a small mark over each joint and drill the mortises. Now I can glue them together. Pushing all three pieces together is not that easy. They really have to be at the right angle. But where they're in place, I can clamp this. Now it's time to make the central post. I begin by ripping two pieces of maple. Between them, I'll insert this snow brush. First thing to do is to remove the brush. Then the scraper. Both pieces will be glued together and the broom's handle is in the middle. But to do so, I need to know the size of the handle. But I have nothing to drill with that size. So I'll begin with my biggest core box bit and route a half circle on both pieces. This is a good start. But it's not big enough. So I change the ruler table setup and make more cuts. Close but not perfect. I fine-tune a router fence and make more cuts. I do this up until I'm satisfied. Then I glue both pieces together. I want to be sure I have a tight joint, so I put a lot of clamps. To clean the inside of the hole, I push a towel through it. While this dries, I start the mobile center of the tripod. After ripping a strip of sapele, I stick my pattern on it. Then I cut all 3 pieces. The first cut is quite simple. But to cut the second 30 degrees cut, I need to stick the piece of wood on a piece of scrap wood. I repeat the same thing for all 3 pieces. Next, it's time to drill the pivot holes. I need to remove this section of each piece, just like I did for the big one. But they're too small to cut on the table saw, so I remove the wood using the bandsaw. Now I can glue them together. I do it the same way I did with its big brother. While the glue dries, I round over all the corners of all the legs blocks. Now that the glue of the central post is dry, I measure to check if it's perfectly square. Since it's not, I plane this a little. Then I use a big quarter-round router bit and make a cylinder. When I check the tube, I can see it's not really round. I can even see flat spots. So I decide to make this round using the lathe. After a quick check, I know this will work. Then I glue small blocks, which will help me later to clamp the lower part of the legs. I also have to make some U-shaped blocks. They will hold the movable supports to the legs. Now I can remove the patterns. This will work just like that, but with those square corners, I can swivel the leg. I fix this right away. The central post will end up just here. I need to drill a hole for it. First, I find its center. It's not too difficult. And I drill a hole about halfway, the same size as my cylinder. This is perfect, but I don't have a hole for the broomstick. I find the center of the other side and drill a hole. Now I can glue the cylinder to the top. But just when I'm done, I realize that I've drilled my hole on the wrong side. The rounded edge should have been on the bottom. I clean the glue and make another round over on the other side. Now I can really glue this. I use lead as weight while the glue dries. I also check for squareness. Now I shape the central part. While I'm at it, I round over the rest. Now I need to make the strips which will hold the leg to the actual hub. Each end is drilled and rounded. Now I need to assemble it all, just to check if it's working. I use a drill to drive the shaft inside their holes. This has less chance of breaking something. When I try this, something is wrong. I notice that the back of the leg bumps on the top of the tripod. I need to use my rasp again. But before taking this apart, I measure the length of the central post and mark it. Then I dismantle this and fix the top of the legs, just before cutting the central post. Before reassembling this back together, I round over the 3 strips. I also remove the burn marks. Now I can put the broomstick in place. And I really like that it's hard to move because the camera will stay put. But now I need to make the head of my tripod. But this will be the subject of the next episode of the Woodpecker.